And good morning and welcome. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv, B-O-L-E-S.TV. As in television, this is our live stream, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here with you, in all of our glorious, wondrous lights and fantastic lookings, which I'm going to explain to you in a moment. Because we're a little bit late getting on the air today. So, yesterday I set up a new Wi-Fi network because we have our new Windows machine coming from Dell in about a month. And everything's on back order because of the silicone chip crisis, so anything you want you can't have for a month if they're building it for you. So I decided, well, we should need to upgrade our router hardware because we had been using old hardware for about 4 years, which served us fine. But if we start glitching today and going like this in the Matrix, you know why. Router trouble. But we should have a more rock-solid connection. But the thing I've discovered that when you change your Wi-Fi network, and we changed the name, we changed everything from base 1, so we know that we're connecting with new things and not old things. Oh boy! You gotta reset your TVs, your iPads, your iPhones, your Echoes from Amazon, your Apple Watch, your laptop, your main computer. And as I discovered this morning, my lights. My streaming lights, 8:42 in the morning. Click to turn them on, get ready to go. They're not turning on. Not connected to your Wi-Fi network. And I set them up, 4 months ago? And I don't remember how to set them up. So I tried to turn them on from the computer, which I usually can do. No. So I tried to turn them on from my iPhone, which I've always been able to do. No. So what I had to do is reset. We have 2 Elgato lights. Very nice. Reset them from the factory. Hold in a button for 11 seconds. When the lights flash 3 times, let go of the button, wait 5 seconds, and the light should turn on. And when the light turns on, that means it's now looking for a Wi-Fi network to connect with. And it did. And you have to do it twice for each light. Now, do I dare turn these lights off just to see what it looks like? I do dare because that's my street name. Okay, they're off now. You can see a little more shadow. I'm slightly uglier than normal. But this is okay. I mean, we could stream like this. But now I'll turn the lights back on. Hey, there they are. Off. Back on. On is better. It smooths you just a little bit. But here's the thing. When you reset the lights, they reset to the factory default, which is normally fine. But I had warmed them up. Because as you know, lights go from very cool blue to a very dark, warm orange, the color of the sun. And the default that I have right now is very bright and sort of fluorescent looking, which I find to be a very ugly color. But I haven't fiddled with it yet, and I might not fiddle with it. That's how you check your lights. Where's the shadow? And on stage, you always have a key light if you're an actor. And if actors are not standing in their key light, there's Dora. Hello. Good morning, Dora. You can't see them. So the director always tells the actor, find your key light and stand in it. And many actors, young actors, don't know how to do that. Where's my key light? And the answer is very simple. Look up, and the one light that is blinding you in your eye, that is your key light. Why would I stand at a light that's blinding me? Because you're an actor on stage. That's what they do. That's a key light. And actors don't like to stand in their key light because it hurts their eyes. They can't see. I can't see. These are very bright. But they're my key lights. So I accept. And you have to have one on one side and one on the other side to give you even, so you don't have shadows on one side. One side should probably be a little more illuminated than the other, but that I don't worry about. Not right now. Otherwise you look flat. But one thing I've noticed and am noticing is maybe a little bit truer color representation. Because sometimes I get on this and I get obsessed with color and I say, well, the shirt you're looking at is actually a little bit greener than it is in real life. And now I'm wondering it's because I was fiddling with my light color and making the light color a little warmer than it should be to give you a true representation of what I'm wearing. Well, this is my kettlebell shirt. And it's slightly light pink, and it looks about right for color. Our Valentine balloons back there, blue-red, not an orange-red. The uplight behind the gold guitar back there, I changed the color intensity on that from about 3,400 up to 4,700, and there's another one of those up here which goes that way. And if you have two lights, you don't want them to be one darker, one lighter, you can just move one back a little bit, and it gives a little bit better saturation. So that's what I've been doing for the last 15 minutes, is trying to figure out how to get my lights on. Everything else is working. I mean, last night, this morning, you figure out what's actually connected to the Wi-Fi network. Well, sometimes you don't remember until something stops working. Why isn't Alexa playing my podcast this morning? Oh, it's not attached to the network anymore. So this is what we used. Orbi. Big. Oh, Dora's memory is not as sharp as it used to be. I'm not admitting to a lack of memory or better memory. I won't admit it. Now, see, this is blocking my light, so you can see my true face, which is very orangey looking, reddish, full of shadow and ugliness. Don't look! I'll hide behind the box. But this is it, from Netgear. Now, a lot of hardcore people say, oh, why would you want an Orbi? Oh, they're so simple. They're ugly. Well, you can control it with an app. It has a main and a satellite. The satellite's right here with me. The main is over there by the TV in the living room where all the connections are. And the reason you want an Orbi is because you plug it in and it just works. You set it up, you scan, you go. And it's done, and it's fast. So we have the original Orbi, and this is the Orbi, what is it calling it? 6, Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 7 is coming out soonish. But you got to take what you got to get when you need it. So I'm very happy to have the Orbi. And my lovely aunt in Kentucky was looking for this problem because she has a cable modem, and she can't go upstairs or in the basement or outside, and she loses her Wi-Fi signal. So she said, what should I use? So I replied and said, well, get an Orbi. All you do is plug it into your router, into your modem, and make sure your modem is in bridge mode with a cable. Then you scan it with your app, turn it on, it's done. You connect to the network, and it's finished. Never replied. Never heard back from her. I think she's 83, I don't know. But she has people who can help her who are younger and perhaps smarter about that sort of thing than she does. Also, I forgot to share with you, this came last Friday. From Joe Biden, our COVID-19 rapid home tests. Small, there were 2 of them. You get 4 tests per household. They all came in an envelope, fit in the mailbox. We haven't used them yet because we feel very strong and feel very good about it. That we're not sick yet. But you look at this, you say, why couldn't Joe Biden do this a year ago? Why now? Everything's unwinding. In a couple of weeks, New Jersey's going to drop its mask mandate for schools. Oy. And for restaurants and indoor eating, and it's just going to be mayhem. If you're vaccinated, you can drop it, your mask. But if you're not vaccinated, you have to wear a mask. Well, the unvaccinated never wore a mask. How much is the Orbi? Simple is not cheap. And as long as Jana Marie's not listening, I'll tell you. There are several different versions. We're going to go to the website in a second. I'll show it to you. Expect to pay on the street? On Amazon? $700? It sounds like a lot, but it's not, because it makes your life easier. And I was shocked to find out when I disconnected our old network, our old Orbi network, we had 24 devices connected to our Wi-Fi setup. 24 devices. I could think, what are we, 24 of what? 2 lights, 2 iPads, 3 televisions, 3 laptops. Oh no, I'm all fine for making life easier. Yeah. Sometimes you got to pay for what you want to have, and it comes with satellites. But with this new, the old one we had, if you had a big house, you had to have your main router, and then satellites in every room. But this one, they say, especially with this drawing, this is your big house, and your router is on the first floor, and then upstairs, 3 rooms away, is your satellite, and you have complete and total saturation. And people, oh no, Jen is here. Hi, Jana Marie. And people say it shockingly works just to have a main router and a satellite. Hi, Jana Marie, what's new? But I have to say the new Orbi router is bigger. It has silver accents. And just immediately when you turn it on, you can just say that everything is faster. Just make sure you reboot everything, turn everything off, and then turn it on. Our Wi-Fi printer goes crazy when every little change happens, but it's very happy now. Dora says, you can eat it with all the equipment you have. Sorry, didn't mean to stir up trouble. Oh, you're not stirring up any trouble. Jana Marie knows what's going on. She always does. I just like to kid her because I'm just testing to see if she's here. Good morning, Jana Marie. From Dora. Yeah, so the one thing that completely shocked me was my Wi-Fi lights. That one thing I wasn't prepared for. I should have turned them on yesterday after I waited until Jana was teaching yesterday at 5 to make the switch over, because otherwise I'm doing stuff, getting ready for the show tomorrow, and she might need some kind of emergency help or call, or I need to print something for her. Who knows? But when she's in class, I know I have at least an hour to make all these changes, and if I break something, I have time to fix it. But it went very smoothly. I just went into the Orbi app and said set up a new network. And I scanned the QR code that was on the router, and it did all the work for me. It was just fantastic. I love it. And a lot of people who don't know anything about routers or modems or internet have a lot of trouble getting it set up, especially when they're trying to replace the modem from the cable company. My advice to you is if you have a cable modem from your company, like Xfinity or Fios, just pay the $9 a month for their modem. Because when you put in your modem, you can have trouble if you don't know what you're doing. So let them have responsibility for your internet with their modem, and then you just plug in your router into their modem once you put their modem in bridge mode, which is easy to do. And you can call them on the phone and say, put my modem in bridge mode if I need to. Yes, Jana Marie's a big kidder. She's fun. So this is the Orbi website. I'll put the link in chat. And here you go. These are the new Orbis. These are the silver Orbis. We don't have the silver Orbis. We have the original Orbi that came out. But it served us well. It never gave us 1 second of trouble the whole time we had it. And it's called the Orbi Mesh. which I find slightly encompassing. So what do you get? Why Orbi Wi-Fi is elite? And remember, the internet nerds, the tech people, don't like Orbi because they say this is beneath them. But if you've seen some other routers with all these things sticking out, these antennas, there are 8 antennas in the Orbi, but they're inside. So it looks very decorative. Mm-hmm. You get faster Wi-Fi, up to 10.8 gigabytes per second. You get further coverage, a 9,000 square foot home, award-winning technology, easy to use is the #1 thing. Superior cybersecurity. Meh. It has this scanner thing that scans everything you connect to it, and then it wants you to purchase a Bitdefender subscription to keep defending everything. That I'm not interested in that. Smart parental controls. If you have kids, you can block them from not seeing stuff. Best coverage. Orbi's award-winning tri-band exclusive quad-RAN mesh technology delivers slightly better coverage and the more reliable player for performance than a router alone. There's an Orbi for every home. And here you go. And you can buy it from Netgear, you can buy it from Amazon. You get a better price than Amazon. The 960 series, the 960 Black Edition. And the only difference between the white and the black is black. Some people want black. I always pick black, but I don't care. White's fine too. The 850 series. The 750 series with a cable modem. So it replaces your modem, but don't do that. You can have up to 5 satellites if you have an 18,000 square foot space you need to cover. And this is the setup. You download the Orbi app and you follow the instructions. Connect Orbi router to your modem and power. Place and power the Orbi satellite in another part of your home. And that's it. It's actually that simple. Tap, manage, and control. And Netgear. They've been around a long time. They do a lot of good stuff. And if you have kids, you can block them from doing things you don't want them doing at night. And you can buy direct from Netgear. I think if you go to their website and just say, hey, I'm shopping on this page, and then you try to leave, they'll offer you 10% off. Oh, it says right here. Right at the very tippy top of this thing. Sign up for 10% off your next item. Can't beat that. Benefits of an Orbi mesh network, faster speeds. How does it work? Everything just connects. You can sign up for news and get 10% off your favorite product. So it's unbeatable. It works. You will like it. And in other news, I saw this yesterday. Have you heard about this? Cosmetic limb lengthening. Now, this used to be reserved for little people who were kids, and they wanted to get an extra 2 or 3 inches of growth. And what happens is doctors would go in there and break their bones, their femur, their big leg bone above the knee, at the hip, and then put in screws, and then over a 2-year period of time, they would lengthen your leg. Now you can lengthen your leg using the same technology that you used for little people. And this is what it looks like. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. Cosmetic limb lengthening. Now it looks simple. Oh, we just put this in your leg with a couple of screws and a nail. And in your femur, and we just make you taller. I don't think they tell you that they break your femur in 3 places. Maybe it's just 1 now. And I don't think they tell you that it takes 2 years because they stretch it, wait for the bone to grow, stretch it again, wait for the bone to grow. And I think I read somewhere that this process is not cheap. $94,000. And insurance does not pay for it. Someone has to be really desperate. Yeah, I guess people are. Someone said online they were... they had a friend who had this done somewhere, 94,000. They were 5'6", and they were going to gain 3 inches of height, which would put them at 5'9". And I said that doesn't even make them 6 foot. So what's the point? Because for, I guess, a lot of women, if you're a guy dating, that they want to date guys that are 6 feet. So if you're going to do it, you should do something that's really going to get you some kind of benefit. Because that's why you're doing it, for other people, not for yourself, really. What to expect after your surgery, costs and financials, cost estimates. $69,000 and $71,000. Tibia lengthening, oof, and femur lengthening. And the funniest thing about the whole thing is that when they lengthen your femur, your knees stay in the same place. Unless you go with the tibia lengthening too, to even yourself out. So you have you'll have femurs that are 3 inches longer, and your knees will stay at the same height. Now that's ridiculous. But if you want to do both, so you're evened out in your legs, well, that would be 69,000. 70 plus 70. Let's say 150,000 altogether with tax. That's insane. Speaking of insane, here's our friend Dora. Just kidding, Dora. She has sent me some interesting, lovely videos that we will now enjoy together. And some of these are on Twitter, so some of these are a little bit older, but she has a hard time figuring out how to get the media off her phone to send it to me. So sending me the link from her Twitter is perfectly wonderful. It all works well. She was busy yesterday, the fits the bill. It was windy. The poor seagulls were stuck in the Matrix. Ah, see, we like talking about the Matrix here. So let's take a look at this. I like that water. And you can hear the wind. They can't even move. They're stuck. They're glitching on their own. And here's another. Lovely video from our friend Dora. Ducks. So much fun. Talking to each other, having a wonderful time in the sun. Oh, one leaves, the other leaves too. Okay. Now we're leaving together. And finally, who knew? Just something happened to encounter 2 years ago when COVID hit and suddenly had to explore nature. What's happening here? Let's find out. It's a squirrel with a piece of pizza.
Is that a piece of bread he's eating? Is he an Italian squirrel? I'm afraid to get too close that he might run away. But it does look like bread. Oh, there we go. Alright, let's see. What is that? Wow, that does look like bread.
Love that. It's bread, pizza style. Terrific. Thank you so much for sending us those lovely videos, Dora. Lots of fun to take a nature break together. Reminded of a pizza rat from the subway from a couple of years ago, dragging an entire slice of pizza in the subway. Well, there we have Pizza Squirrel, who is not dealing with any marinara sauce or cheese, just dealing with the bread. Oh, Dora loves nature. Absolutely. It's very important to us. And you have access to some really beautiful places. Oh, that water is so gorgeous. And now we will take a very brief break and come back with more interesting news of the day, including a suit against Warner Brothers and children daring to go into the metaverse. Back in a moment. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. On Fridays, most Fridays, we have Jana Marie here around 10:15 giving you a formal, hardcore ASL lesson in American Sign Language. And then Jana has her own show on Saturdays and Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern, where she talks about disability and deafness and ASL, and sometimes just silly and fun things. But it's all done in American Sign Language, and she types if you don't understand, and she teaches you, and it's just a wonderful experience. Last weekend there was a lot of talk about cats, and that was a lot of fun. So continuing on, so far our stream is very strong. We're looking very good. Sometimes our stream drops to like 5,000 up, and you want to have a minimum of 6,000 up, and so far we've been way above 6,000. So I guess our new Orbi mesh router is doing its job, which is a very good thing. So I don't know if you watched the Matrix movie, Resurrections. It wasn't very good, but it was not as terrible as I thought it was going to be. And now there's a big lawsuit from the producers of Matrix Resurrections. They want money because they did not want to be on HBO Max. And Warner Brothers says every movie that we release in the theater right now, because of this pandemic, is also going to be simultaneously released on HBO Max. So Warner Brothers' sole purpose in moving the release date of The Matrix Resurrections forward was to create a desperately needed wave of year-end HBO Max premium subscriptions from what it knew would be a blockbuster film, despite knowing full well that it would decimate the film's box office revenue and deprive Village Roadshow, the co-producer of the movie, of any economic upside that Warner Brothers and its affiliates would enjoy. The Matrix Resurrections performed disappointingly at the box office, garnering only a fraction of the revenue generated by its predecessors. Well, I don't think that's because it was on HBO Max. I think that's because it was a very bad movie. And as someone said online, if you know your sexual nomenclature, especially in the gay community, they said, well, after watching Matrix Resurrections, there's no doubt that Neo, the Keanu Reeves character, is a bottom. And other people responded, was there ever any doubt? So if that's the message of Matrix Resurrections, I understand why maybe it didn't do as well as some of the original Matrix movies. Other films released during the pandemic performed well at the box office, including Spider-Man: No Way Home, which, unlike The Matrix Resurrections, was not released on a streaming platform when it came out in theaters. Dora's shaking her head. Now, Spider-Man: No Way Home, which I have seen bits and pieces of, and I know the story because I looked into it, is a much more interesting movie than Matrix Resurrections. Every movie maker thinks their movie is the number one thing that's ever been made. It's just a normal way of protecting your self-esteem and your ego, and I'm guilty of it too. And when Black Widow came out, the star of that movie, which I can't remember her name right now, sued Sony, saying, you ruined the movie because you also put it on Disney Plus instead of just letting it be in the movies. And she sued, and they countersued, and then I think they just settled out of court, which probably was just that Sony agreed to pay lawyers' fees. But I don't know anything about it. But I think it was a big buyout, and she won the big money. I think she would have somehow let people know that she was victorious. So Matrix Resurrections is not in the same league as Spider-Man No Way Home. People were waiting for years for Spider-Man No Way Home, with the 3 Spidey people coming back, Tobey Maguire and the other guy and the new guy, and they're all in the same movie, and they're all fighting the old. I mean, everybody was looking forward to it if you're a Spider-Man fan, which I'm not really. But nobody was really wanting Matrix Resurrections to have confirmation that Keanu Reeves is a bottom. And it's very interesting that the Wachowski brothers, who started Matrix, the original movie, both became the Wachowski sisters, which is fine and interesting. But as you take a look at the arc of their movie, you can kind of see where they began, and then their transition, and the transition of the movie from one thing to another. Not saying that everything in the world is sexual, but Dr. Freud, I think, would find it maybe interesting. Here's an interesting first-person story about going into the metaverse. And it's a little freaky. I was alone in the virtual world of the metaverse, meandering through a side corridor of simplistically rendered palace, when a stranger entered. "Hello?" a small voice called from the palace's central plaza. "Where are you?" I hesitated. The voice sounded like it belonged to a child. "I can't find you," the child said plaintively. "Can you give me a hint?" In theory, kids aren't allowed in the game. The new virtual reality app Horizon Worlds, the first foray into the much-hyped metaverse for Facebook parent company Meta, is limited to adults 18 and older. Well, we all know what that means. If kids can't have it, kids want it, and they're going to get it. In practice, however, very young kids appear to be among the metaverse's earliest adopters. Now, how are they getting in there? Because if you have to buy the equipment, it's $600. So the kids are not buying this on their own. Just like kids don't buy their own guns, right? They seem to find them when they're in the house. The person I met that day, who told me they were 9 years old, and we had a problem here. Right here on this live stream. A very wonderful seeming person, claiming to be a 5th grader from South America, asked interesting questions, wanted me to put up the 8-ball response, and I did, and the Discord server link, and I did, helped me form this conversation place, make it better. Well, a 5th grader is 10 years old. And at least on Twitch, you have to be 14 years old, or you get blocked and banned. So, to follow the rules, we had to ban our new friend, which was heartbreaking. But children are not allowed to be online, and if you find out about their age, even if they don't tell you, but they say, "I'm a 5th grader in South America," what are you going to do? You have to do the right thing. The person I met that day told me they were 9 and using their parents' Oculus VR headset. Was one of many apparent children I encountered in several weeks on the app. Dora was wondering what happened to him. Yeah, me too. It was a little heartbreaking. I didn't really want to do it, but then, I thought about it and talked about it with Jana Marie, and she said, look, you don't have a choice. You know what the rules are. It's not for the goodness of the stream. It's for the goodness of the child who is in a place where that child does not belong. And she was right. So we did the only thing that we could do, and we reported that account to Twitch, as we were required to do as an affiliate. And then we just put the ban in place, which was too bad, because we had made him a VIP before we knew he was 10 years old. Thank you, Dora. Yeah, we did. And while that person was wonderful, the person did tend to come into the stream and change the subject to talk about what he wanted to talk about, not what we were talking about, which is fine, because that's how chat goes. But it's a little easier when you know when to ask a question. And reviews of Horizon Worlds include dozens of complaints about youngsters. Oh boy, some of them foul-mouthed and rude. We did not have that problem here. Our friend was very polite. Gleefully ruining the experience for the grown-ups. That's nothing new. That's why we have very strict controls on this. We were getting a lot of follower spam in this stream. And then you read the forums and other people who have the same problems, who are affiliates, and they say, look, if you do the drastic thing and require telephone verification, because we had turned that off for a while. We were just requiring email verification to chat, not subscribing. But if you require a phone number, these spam bots don't have a phone number, and they can't verify a phone number because they're a bot. And because if they do register their phone number, then Twitch can track them. Oh, all these bots belong to this one phone number. Let's kill them all. So we got like 5 or 6 of those bots, follower bots, buy our followers for $10 and ban them, and they come right back. So then we turned on, put back, phone verification, and they've not been back since. So we don't get as many chatters as we would like, probably, but it's a more protected place to have a conversation. But experts say the presence of children in Meta's fledgling metaverse raises a graver concern that by mixing children with adult strangers in a largely self-moderated virtual world, the company is inadvertently, really, I don't think it's inadvertent, is creating a hunting ground for sexual predators. I think the metaverse people are quite well aware of what happens. I don't think they have a way of stopping it. When new online forums arise that attract kids, sexual predators are often among the first to arrive. Says Sarah Gardner, Vice President of External Affairs at Thorn, a tech nonprofit that focuses on protecting children from online sexual abuse. They see an environment that is not well protected and does not have clear systems of reporting. They'll go there first to take advantage of the fact that it is a safe ground for them to abuse or groom kids. Of course. Once a predator has identified a target, they'll try to isolate the child, gain their trust, and coax or bribe them into sending nude images or videos of themselves, or even meeting up in person. It's a problem that's been documented on social apps such as Instagram and Discord, along with games such as Fortnite and Minecraft, many of which have taken steps to address it. Meta, on the other hand, appears to have done little to address the possibility of child grooming specifically, despite throwing huge amounts of resources into the development of the metaverse. Even changing its corporate name from Facebook in October to reflect the new emphasis on digital reality. It's very interesting. How are you going to police it? How How do you stop people from touching each other? Well, yesterday we said they instituted this new 4-foot rule where you cannot touch virtually another person in the metaverse within 4 feet. And if you try to, they say your hand disappears at 4 feet. Now, does that stop them from cursing you out and saying filthy things to you? I don't think so. Speaking of filthy, dirty things, let's talk about South Dakota. Maybe a week ago, we talked about trans men competing as women on a swim team, and how straight women said it's not fair because those young boys start out male and they have a testosterone spurt growth in their teens that can never be replicated by a female athlete. So when they transition, they are more powerful than a naturally born female. Well, now there's a new law in South Dakota. A new law that applies to all state-accredited schools in South Dakota. Under the law, if a student at such a school suffers direct or indirect harm as a result of the law being violated, they will be allowed to sue the school, association, and government. Last month, Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, released an ad touting the legislation, then making its way through the state legislature, saying it will give South Dakota the strongest law perfecting female sports in the nation. So South Dakota says if you start life as a male and then you transition and you want to compete on the women's team, you can't. You're out. That's the way it goes. Human Rights Campaign Senior Council member and State Legislative Director Catherine Oakley said in a statement that inflammatory rhetoric used by South Dakota lawmakers in support of the bill shows just how untethered Noem and legislators are from the realm of science, evidence, or reality. Governor Noem seems to become the face of discrimination and fear-mongering by putting a target on the backs of vulnerable children who already fear for their safety and well-being. It's a very difficult situation. I don't know if there's an answer to it. And the article that we talked about before was the University of Pennsylvania swim team, and Penn stands by their female swimmer who's breaking all the records, even though he used to be on the men's team. The IRS. Did you know for about 2 or 3 weeks they were requiring you to verify your face with a separate outside company called ID.me, in order for you to access your tax records online? They wanted facial verification from a third party before they would let you look at your taxes. The whole thing was unbelievable. I thought I dreamt it at first. And there was not a lot of outrage that I could see. And then some people did object, and now it looks like the IRS has tumbled backward into now saying, okay, we don't want your face anymore. We'll figure out a different way to harass you. The IRS has abandoned its plan to require Americans to submit to a facial recognition check through a private company, ID.me, to access their online tax accounts following a firestorm of criticism from privacy advocates and members of Congress. Well, I'm glad about that. I didn't see any firestorm, but I'm glad it was there. The IRS said yesterday it would transition away from using the company ID.me for new accounts over the coming weeks and would develop an additional authentication process that does not involve facial recognition. I wonder what that's going to be. The IRS takes taxpayer privacy and security seriously, and we understand the concerns that have been raised. Everyone should feel comfortable with how their personal information is secured, and we are quickly pursuing short-term options that do not involve facial recognition. And I don't think the outrage was quite so much about the facial recognition, because if you have an iPhone, you get your face recognized. It was that you had to go to this website, id.me, and go through their harassment, is what it feels like, of getting verified in their system, their private system, in order for you then to go get your taxes. And I went over there and looked, and I thought, I've had an account, just a basic sign-in account with id.me for a long time, because I love the idea of people knowing who you are, but they wanted your photos of your face, they wanted your social security number, they wanted your passport, driver's license, they wanted what it seemed like access to your bank accounts. And you're thinking, all this information they're gathering as a private company that they're then going to use with the IRS to confirm my identity? Or are you confirming my bank accounts? And if I'm hiding money or switcherooing things? Or why are you collecting all of that on behalf of the IRS? And you can see right here, businesses and governments, individuals. And we know this is coming, so I think that if the IRS had their own form of ID.me, that they would not be getting rid of the facial recognition part. The thing that stumbled them is that people were upset that they had to give all of this private information to this ID.me, that who knows who they are and what they do. They're not a government entity. They're a third-party verifier. But it's coming for all of us, so I guess we have to get ready. You can verify the identity of physicians, enable secure citizen access to digital government services, that was the IRS, e-commerce, acquire customers and build loyalty, financial services. What if you're just a regular old Joe like me? Well, verifying your identity is the first step to accessing government services online that protect your personal information. What does that mean? Well, let's click and see what happens. ID.me is a trusted technology partner to multiple government agencies. We secure digital identity verification to help government agencies make sure you, and not someone pretending to be you, when you request access to government services online. And your information is secure. We provide the strongest online identification available anywhere. We use bank-grade encryption to keep your personal information safe. And I was reading online, this person who was trying to get everything verified, and you have to, I guess, speak to a ID.me person for them, I guess, to check your credentials and see if you on video are actually the person you are claiming to be in your paperwork. And the wait time was, I think, 3 hours. And this person said, I'm not going to sit here in front of my computer for 3 hours waiting maybe for someone to show up and ID me. So this reporter sent an email to the PR people at ID.me and said, look, great idea, interesting. I'm not sitting here for 3 hours, so I'm going to not write this article. And they immediately called her on the phone and said, we'll ID you right now. And she said, well, that's not fair to jump me at the head of the line just because I called you and complained because I'm a reporter. They said, no, this is part of the normal process. So she said, okay. And she got verified in 5 minutes. So who controls the information? Who skips the line? What's white privilege and what is reporter privilege? Sometimes they're one and the same thing. So this is the world we're going into, loss of privacy. Hey, if you want a job, you want access to your government records, you gotta go to id.me and prove who you are first before we'll even give you a chance to know what's going on with your private records that you may or may not own. And now it's time for one more blood pressure break. Back in a moment. We are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. BOLES.tv. Now you can watch us video on demand here on Twitch. No closed captions. You will not have advertising. You will get access to the chat that we've had. But you have to pay $5 a month. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you get it for free. If you want video on demand with advertising and closed captions, you can go to YouTube. The easy way to get there is by going to BOLES.LIVE, Boles.live, and you can see all of our old shows right there, video on demand, available on YouTube. You don't have to pay anything, but you might have to look at some advertising. It's available, closed captioned, but no chat. No chat is saved. So when we give links and URLs, they're not on the YouTube version. Well, now we're going right into, oh boy, excuse me, another terrible thing that's going on in California. And the only thing you can call this is the California Rape Club. Shocking. And it's not a joke. I'm not kidding with you. Inside one of the only federal women's prisons in the United States, inmates say they have been subjected to rampant sexual abuse by correctional officers, and even the warden, and were often threatened or punished when they tried to speak up. Prisoners and workers at the Federal Correctional Institute in Dublin, California even have a name for it: the Rape Club. An Associated Press investigation found a permissive and toxic culture at the Bay Area lockup, enabling years of sexual misconduct by predatory employees and cover-ups that have largely kept the abuse out of the public eye. The AP obtained internal Federal Bureau of Prisons documents, statements, and recordings from inmates, interviewed current and former prison employees and inmates, and reviewed thousands of pages of court records from criminal and civil cases involving Dublin prison staff. Together, they detail how inmates' allegations against members of the mostly male staff were ignored or set aside. How prisoners could be sent to solitary confinement for reporting abuse, and how officials in charge of preventing and investigating sexual misconduct were themselves accused of abusing inmates or neglecting their concerns. In one instance, a female inmate said a man who was her prison work supervisor taunted her by remarking, "Let the games begin," when he assigned her to work with a maintenance foreman she had accused of raping her. Another worker claimed he wanted to get inmates pregnant. The warden, the man in charge at Dublin, kept nude photos on his government-issued cell phone of a woman he is accused of assaulting. One inmate said she was overwhelmed with fear, anxiety, and anger, and cried uncontrollably after enduring abuse and retaliation in Dublin. Another said she had contemplated suicide when her cries for help went unheeded, and now suffers from severe anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. All sexual activity between a prison worker and an inmate is illegal. Correctional employees enjoy substantial power over inmates, controlling every aspect of their lives from mealtime to lights out. And there is no scenario in which an inmate can ever give consent. And not speaking of inmates, but this about how an inmate cannot give consent. It just reminds me of Thomas Jefferson and the slave owner and the black slave woman that he was in love with, and who bore many of his children. And she lived in his basement. And some people are trying to say, oh, it was a romance. She was the mother of his children. And people who know say, oh, no. She was his property at that time. She was his slave. She did not have consent. She had to do what he said. And those children that she had were legally a product of rape. Well, the Thomas Jefferson people don't want to hear that. But sometimes the truth can be a nasty mistress. Now, we love talking about NFTs on this live stream. And I've been investigating it a little bit. OpenSea, I've been looking around. It is really very interesting, and some people are selling some fascinating pieces of art. And what I'm noticing is that they trade hands. They start at a very low price, and they're traded, then they go down, they're traded again, back up, the price goes up and down. So, it could be a place for money laundering, but it could also be a place where people just go to enjoy and trade new things. And if you don't find out about new things, then you get left behind. And you can also create your own NFTs and put them online and sell them and try to get some money. So that makes your creative juices go like, what could I make an NFT where I could make some money by selling something to someone who's looking for a piece of art? So we're going to be discussing that a little bit more in the future, I hope, without just dismissing it out of hand, because it's really a big, mega mother father. And the Treasury is now taking a look at these NFTs. The Treasury of the United States found that there is some evidence of money laundering in the high-value art market of NFTs, but limited evidence of terrorist financing risk, which I guess is what they were investigating. It said those most vulnerable in the market are, my son will disown me. There's a story. Uh-oh. Dora's going to give us a story. We're ready. The most vulnerable in the market are businesses offering financial services that are not subject to anti-money laundering or countering terrorism financing obligations, warning that asset-based lending of these NFTs can be used to disguise the original source of funds and provide liquidity to criminals, which we've talked about here before. Now, I'm not saying Paris Hilton and Jimmy Fallon are involved in money laundering, but I think some people may be. A senior Treasury official told reporters next step includes engaging stakeholders such as those in Congress or in the industry to get their feedback, adding that the Treasury hopes the study will encourage industries to take additional steps to make it harder to launder illicit proceeds through the art market of NFTs. The Treasury will give further thought as to whether additional regulatory steps are needed in this market. The Treasury's study of the facilitation of money laundering and terror finance through the trade of works of art suggested that the increasing use of art as an investment or financial asset could make the high-value art trades vulnerable to money laundering. The emerging online art market, NFTs, may present new risks depending on the structure and incentives of certain activities in this sector market, i.e. the purchase of NFTs, digital units on an underlying blockchain that can represent ownership of a digital work of art. According to U.S. authorities, in the first 3 months of 2021, this year, well, that was last year, the market for NFTs generated a record $1.5 billion in trading and grew 2,627% over the previous quarter. Dora says in Twitter today about Georgia, USA having found an environmentally safe way to create NFTs. Oh, I like that. According to the blog post, wash trading. Okay, this is a new thing. Wash trading refers to a transaction in which a seller is on both sides of a trade in order to paint a misleading picture of an asset's value and liquidity. So let's say someone has an NFT. They sell it to themselves for $1,000. Then they resell it to themselves for $2,000. So the asset in the blockchain, when you track the movement of that piece of art, it looks like it has increased in value 100%. Now, if you're looking at it closely, like on OpenSea, you can see who's selling to whom and why and where. So that's a big clue. Yet, as wash trading becomes more common across NFT marketplaces, new solutions are being developed to detect fraudulent activity. By using chain analysis software, we can see when a person buys a token using funds from the same person who sold them that very token. That is the definition of wash trading. So buyer beware, if you're going to wade into the NFT pool, it might be coming for you. Dora says, but due to you, I know how NFTs are made. Very strange, but why? Just for exclusivity? Why do I want to go through all those steps if I can simply buy an original artwork? Yeah, it's very interesting, actually. I read about it a lot yesterday as I was trying to figure out my Wi-Fi situation. Looking at all those apes yesterday really just blew my mind. And it is about exclusivity, and it does appear that you are an art trader. You buy a piece of art that you like, and then you hang on to it, sometimes for a day, sometimes for a month, sometimes for several months, hoping that the price will go up. And then you flip it, you sell it to another person, and that's how you make money. And all of that appears legitimate because it's right there on the page in the blockchain of who is selling to whom and for how much. And then places like OpenSea give you the average daily price of that piece of artwork. And then over time, over last week, 7 days, a month, a year, you can see how that price fluctuates. It's exactly the same as Zillow, except instead of selling houses with all that information about the history of it, you're selling a piece of artwork. And some of the artwork is just awful. Real, I mean, it's people just trying to make $5. And then you see some very interesting artwork that is original, digital, well thought out, well designed, provocative, interesting, and very expensive. So I sort of get it. Now, the Bored Ape thing I don't get, but there are people who are taking the Bored Ape thing and flipping it and making it a viral ape, or a sick ape, or a decomposing ape, or a super ape. And some of them worked on the original project of the Bored Ape. Now, those are funny, because that's a commentary on the commentary. I find those very interesting, actually. And they're about 1/10 of the price of a Bored Ape, and they're better designed and better looking, in my opinion. So overall, we found it is not profitable to wash trade NFTs because you end up paying a lot of gas fees. Now, what's a gas fee? Okay, that's what Dora's talking about, where making it green. A gas fee is an additional price added to your transaction. That is, how much it costs to transfer ownership on the blockchain of this piece of art over here to you. So traveling from here to here takes gas, and that's a gas fee. Some works of art don't have a gas fee. Others have a big gas fee. And when you sell something as an NFT, even if it trades hands several 10 times, the original art producer, who you should buy from verified, they have a verified check mark. Be careful of these unverified people. They get like 7%. Every time that thing flips, it gets sold, the artist gets 7%. I understand why people want to get into it. They're creating their own annuity through artwork. As long as they're verified, and you want to make sure they're verified with, like OpenSea, then you know that you're dealing with a good person and someone who is a verified artist. Now, sometimes you go in there and say, oh, that's interesting. You click on it, and you get a little thing that pops up from OpenSea saying, look, this is not a verified person. We don't know who they are. You're risking a purchase if you buy this, because we can't guarantee that they're actually going to come through for you. But if you want to go ahead and get it anyway, click on this and approve it. Whereas when you buy from a verified seller on OpenSea, they guarantee the transaction. Chain analysis findings indicate that 152 Ethereum addresses associated with wash traders resulted in losses of $416,000. On the other hand, some wash traders have been successful. Data from chain analysis shows that 110 Ethereum addresses received $8.9 million in profits from wash trading. So the metaverse is scary, NFTs are scary, because it's all new tech. And the young kids are into it. And I have to say, the smart artists are finding ways to profit off of their art. Their digital art. I mean, they're not taking photographs of existing things they've painted or created. They're creating it digitally. And some of these pieces of art have 30 owners. So that means there are 30 versions of that piece of art. Now, some people laugh and say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I pay $10,000, whatever, to have a copy of one of 30? Well, back in the day when artists, Picassos, would do lithographs of their work, they would sign it, one of 500, and then you'd buy number 254. It's sort of the same idea. I believe the Bored Apes, which I think the base price of a Bored Ape now that we looked at yesterday is, I think, $7,000. I believe the intrinsic value in that is that your ape is a unique ape and it belongs only to you. And I can understand that that makes it somewhat special, whereas some of the other things have, 30 copies. Well, now it's time to take our final break for blood pressure, and then we're going to come back and talk about a very interesting thing about the disturbing valley. We have the uncanny valley, and the other side of that is the disturbing valley. Doris says, I started creating digital artwork in 1993. I drew a full flower arrangement with the mouse. I screwed up. Well, keep going. There's a lot of money in that. Oh, you screwed up your right arm. Oh, that's different. That's painful. And I guess some people are selling videos and voice NFTs. That I don't know anything about. I'll have to check that out. I was really just looking at the artwork. And some of it's very arresting, very interesting stuff out there. Oh, tendinitis. Well, we gave you the exercises to do with the flex bars, so that might help a little bit. And now we're going to be back in just a moment, but you can keep chatting while I'm out. I'm looking to chat while I'm going to the bathroom because the chat is always visible on the TVs. Back in a moment. We're back from break. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv. BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. And you can always get in touch with us and ask us a question or ask us to look up something for a conversation. We're very happy to do that. You can email me directly, david@boles.tv. Well, we've had a wonderful conversation today so far, and now we're going to round out our conversation with the disturbing valley. We've had a lot of conversation in the past about the uncanny valley, which is to do with kind of robots and artificial intelligence and where that line is drawn between, is that a real person or is that a robot? It's the uncanniness of it. It's a Freud term. The Uncanny is the name of the article that he wrote about this. And now there's this other notion that's not a new notion, but it's getting a resurgence, a resurrection, if you will, of the disturbing valley, where we start here with robots and AI, and we go up, 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 go out of the uncanny valley up to the top of a mountain, and then we start going down the mountain. And as we go down the mountain, we are going down into what is called the disturbing valley. And the disturbing valley is one of repulsion. As it's no longer uncanny, we recognize them. They're robots, they're ugly, we don't like them, we're disgusted by them. So here's how that begins. The notion of the disturbing valley was coined in the 1970s. 40 years ago! 50 years ago! By robotics engineer Masahiro Mori. The Japanese scientist hypothesized that the more robots look human, the more human observers show empathy and positive emotions about these subjects. However, this upward slope ends up reaching the top of the valley, where the emotions change. After a certain stage of resemblance, the predominant emotion is repulsion. He postulated that after this peak, there is a downward slope on the other side of the uncanny valley. And once this stage is crossed, if the robots become really difficult to distinguish from humans, well, then the emotional responses become positive again. And here's an example of what you probably don't want to see in the uncanny valley or even the disturbing valley. This is a bot created to teach dental students how to interact with their patients. And it's malfunctioning. This malfunctioning dental school robot is quite possibly one of the scariest things I've ever seen. Here you go, open wide. Now, maybe that's, a petulant child, or maybe this is a person who is disturbed in the mind. And you'd have to practice on this person and try to see if you could fill their cavity. I don't know. But I don't believe this is supposed to be the proper response from this bot to bite your finger off. Here is a full illustration of the famous disturbing quality, the disturbing valley, a feeling that we find with other humanoid robots, like Sophia on the left and Ripley Q2 on the right. These robots look like us, but at the same time, they don't really look like us. And the imperfections become terrifying to us, thus creating the disturbing valley. They're terrifying because they are monstrous in the sense of an abnormality that has no place to exist in reality. many people are therefore much more comfortable with a robot that is clearly robotic, made of metal, and only vaguely resembles a human, like Pepper, than with a robot that tries to imitate our skin, our eyes, etc. Now, this is just the opposite of what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do in the metaverse. He doesn't want you to look like a robot. He wants to match your eyes and your eye movement and your skin texture and your skin color. He is creating his own disturbing metaverse. But what about on the other side of the valley, where the emotions become positive again? This downward slope does not exist right now. According to the disturbing valley theory of 1970, the robots in question would have to look a lot more like us than the humanoids we showed earlier. And on this same idea, here's an interesting study that when people deal with robots, they prefer to deal with female robots. FemBots, I guess is what you call them. Isn't that what Austin Powers called them in the movie, FemBots? People are more comfortable talking to female rather than male robots working in service roles in hotels. Now, I didn't know robots had gender. According to a study by Washington State University, the study, which surveyed about 170 people on hypothetical service robot scenarios, also found that the preference was stronger when the robots were described as having more human features. The findings are detailed in the following paper. People have a tendency to feel more comfort in being cared for by females because of existing gender stereotyping about service roles. That gender stereotype appears to transfer to robot interactions as well, and it is more amplified when the robots are more human-like. For the study, survey participants were presented with one of 4 scenarios about interacting with an AI service robot at a hotel. In one scenario, they were greeted by a male service robot named Alex, who was described as having a face and a human-like body. A second scenario was worded exactly the same with just 2 changes. The robot's gender was female and its name was Sarah. In 2 other scenarios, the robots were both gendered and named differently, but described as machine-like, with an interactive screen instead of a face. The respondents were then asked to rank how they felt about the interactions. The participants, who were presented with the female robot scenarios, rated the experience as more pleasant and satisfying than those who had scenarios with male robots. The preference for the female robot was more pronounced when the robots were described as looking more human. It was cautioned that replacing human hospitality workers with AI robots of any gender raises many issues that need further research. For instance, if a robot breaks down or fails in service in some way, such as losing luggage or getting a reservation wrong, customers may want a human employee to help them. And now, excuse me, we talk about Zoom and how even when you're on a Zoom call, you're being tracked and analyzed and data is being collected against you. Researchers asked each participant to sit in front of a computer screen in a minimal, windowless room during 2 video conference calls. The first included a 15-minute interactive WebEx meeting with 3 other people and a fake user whose video and audio were turned off. Partway through the meeting, the researchers introduced distractions. Someone eating crackers, drinking soda, another adjusting their moving desk, which changed the user's background. Each participant then watched 10 minutes of a recorded Zoom video of a city council meeting, with 24 people in attendance. The user frames shifted when someone new started to talk. Underneath the computer monitor, the researchers had installed a state-of-the-art eye-tracking system to measure where each participant was looking and for how long during the video call. The system's array bounced infrared light off the participants' eyes every 4 milliseconds, recording gaze movements and producing visualizations akin to airline route maps. The eye tracking gave us the opportunity to objectively record what people actually look at during one of these video conference meetings. And we learned some surprising things. Uh-oh. During the small group interactive video meetings, participants spent 1/3 of the time looking at something other than the computer screen. As a comparison, participants spent 11% of the time looking off the screen during a large group video recording. Researchers also found people looked at the planned distractions, snacking, changing the background, during the experiment, but only for several seconds before reverting their gaze. The research team also found women looked at their own videos much more than men. As to why this might be, a study was pointed to a Stanford University study last year in which women consistently reported more mirror anxiety associated with the self-view in video calls. People adapted very quickly to virtual meetings during the first year of the pandemic, but the format still feels unnatural. How many in-person meetings have you been to where you sit on one side of the table and everyone else sits on the other side of the table and looks at you the whole time? That would drive people crazy. We may see some reactions from people across from us or turn our head when someone speaks, but we don't see everyone's face at the same time. Adding that this staring or hypergaze can trigger higher levels of stress and Zoom fatigue. Well, I think we know why women prefer to look at themselves in the mirror of a video conference call, because, as we just learned, people prefer women in their bots. So it makes sense that a woman would prefer her own gaze than a man would prefer to gaze at his own ugly face, because it is self-soothing to look at something traditionally, stereotypically more beautiful than something else. That's one thought, anyway. Well, I had a wonderful chat today about many things: NFTs and the disturbing valley, and FemBots, and the California gang rape, oy oy oy, and children in the metaverse. And we talked about Dora's wonderful videos. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find me on Twitter at David Boles. There's Dora. I'm not on Zoom that often. You're lucky. I don't like being on Zoom either. Now, during the pandemic, Gianna was on Zoom all day, every day, telecommuting from work, teaching ASL. It was all on Zoom. But it worked well because that's sort of the meme, the way that deaf persons communicate today, on the video phone, FaceTime, video phone. It's the same as Zoom. So it was very natural for her just to make that transition. Plus, she's very beautiful and she can look at her own beautiful face in the meetings and be comforted. At least that's what the research says. You can find me on Facebook, David Boles. No, that's Twitter. Facebook, I'm just regular old Boles. Boles Books on Instagram. On YouTube, We are Boles Blues, but you can head on over to boles.live and find us there. BOLES.LIVE. TikTok, Boles TV. Here's our Discord server. You can click on that and join us if you want to have a chat on Discord. And we forgot to ask a question of the Magic 8 Ball today. Magic 8 Ball, will it rain tomorrow? We don't know. Just like every other weather person in the world, I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I'll look outside and tell you when I know. So you can email me, David, at boles.tv. If you have a question for Jana about American Sign Language or disability or cats or something else fun, you can email her, Jana, at boles.tv too. So until tomorrow, I wish you a wonderful day and a good evening, and I hope you wake up to joy and sympathy and sparkles tomorrow. I will catch you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here, live streaming on boles.tv. I'll see you then. See ya, Dora.